Once again, we return to the site of the 950th anniversary of the Battle of Hastings, and today I bring you footage of the soldiers preparing for battle. Warfare in Saxon England was based entirely around the idea of the shield wall. The idea is for your men to form a solid and united front against which the enemy can only throw themselves directly into. If the shield wall stands firm, it's extraordinarily difficult to force your way into it and exploit any possible gaps. But you'll notice that our advancing force does not have a solid line. Their left flank is dangerously exposed. And so look at what happens to the line as these two walls clash against each other.
I mean, it's possible that we'd have another 4 years of stalemate.
Yeah. The trouble with this country, we've got no opposition at the moment. Yeah, we've got a weirdo called Corbyn. I guess the man of all skills.
I never thought I'd say I miss Miliband, but Corbyn makes me miss Miliband.
Terribly sorry there for the modern day political talk, but you know how it is. People hear my accent and they immediately want to know who I voted for. But in any case, what we saw there was the entire line sort of pivot on its center, like wheel about on its very center, as the right flank of the advancing Saxon forces threw back the Norman left, but their own left flank was pushed back by the Norman right because it was so loosely formed. And while in an actual battle I can't imagine anything like that would happen nearly so quickly, considering the, much larger scale that they would actually be fighting in, it does show the importance of maintaining a unified and solid front, because if even one point of it is turned back, especially a flank, then that means that the entire army becomes that much closer to routing. And we see in the actual Battle of Hastings, all it took really was one strong breakthrough for the entire line to shatter. And of course, once we see that united front dissolve, it just becomes an absolute slaughter, and the battlefield becomes far more chaotic. Now in this engagement, we see a much more concerted effort to maintain that solid front that we were talking about earlier. We see them closing in the gaps to make sure that their ranks are much tighter, and we see a slower advance as a single unit. And look at how this changes the way that the battle goes.
A defector. Rather dramatic, isn't it?
Especially better from today than they've got the reenactors tomorrow. You get practice than practice day.
So as you can see, when both sides take care to maintain a strong and solid front, a strong formation, the engagement lasted far longer, despite there actually being fewer men than in the first battle. Rather than one or both sides having a flank be turned, causing the lines to break up and forcing each side to fight onto the last man, both lines remained fairly consistent throughout, and this allowed one side to more securely break off from the fighting, rapidly reform their line, and then charge again in an attempt to break through their foe. But on the other side, their foe, despite being charged by their opponent twice, were still able to consistently hold them back because they maintained their front. And so the battle becomes a sort of a slow slog as the two forces are just hammering away at each other until one side eventually gains the upper hand. And so it's no wonder that at the Battle of Hastings, which saw a heavily outnumbered Saxon shield wall holding off against a number of Norman assaults, lasted so much longer than most of the battles of the day. It stretched for some 6 to 8 hours. It was really only after the Saxon line began to stretch thin and break apart that the Norman cavalry were able to finally break through them. Now, as for the rest of the footage, we have some individual sparring as well as one more large group battle, all of which is taking place a bit closer to the camera, so you can use that to pay attention a bit more to individual reenactor techniques and see how they keep this much more physical form of reenacting, which looks absolutely terrifying to me, how they manage to keep it safe and yet still interesting and make it look absolutely fantastic, especially in those large groups. And so that's all I have for today. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the footage.
On him!